So you're thinking about moving to the Seattle, Washington area? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about 10 steps you need to take before making the move over here. So stay tuned. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my future videos on what it's like living over here in the Seattle metro area. People just like yourself here from YouTube reach out to me all the time when they're making the move over here. I'm an active real estate agent here in the Seattle area, so if you're coming over here, you're looking to buy a home and need help through that whole process, finding that right neighborhood for you and finding that right home, feel free to reach out to me here at my info on the screen. But like I said, in this video, I'm gonna go over the 10 steps that you need to take when you're looking to move over here and looking to buy a home. I've got a lot of you that have reached out to me here from YouTube over the last year and a half, 2 years now, and have assisted a lot of you in that transition coming from out of state into the Washington area and purchasing a home. So I've seen kind of, you know, what the best route can be to take. Now it changes a bit for every person. Every situation is a little different. So there's leeway here, but these are 10 things that you really should consider as you're kind of planning out that move up here to the Seattle area. So number one, and I'm sure you're already doing it because you're watching this video, but that's do your research, and that's look at all the different places there are around here to live. It's impossible. There's over 70 different suburbs outside of Seattle that are within the Seattle metropolitan area between 3 counties. It's impossible for you to come over here and look at homes in every single one of those cities. It's not doable. So you've got to narrow down your list of locations that you want to live. Of course, your work is going to factor into that. Maybe you work at a specific location, so you need to be somewhere in a commutable distance to that. So maybe some of you are remote workers and that's not going to matter as much, but there's other things that matter to you. The proximity to some sort of amenities, or the type of neighborhood you want to be in, or the price point you want to be in, or, you know, a community, family, suburban type feel versus an urban feel. So there's a lot of different factors that go into what a good spot might be for you, but you need to do your research and narrow down that list of options. I've got a lot of videos here on my channel breaking down a lot of different cities and suburbs and great places to live for, you know, different people. So go on there, take a look, watch some more videos if you haven't already, and try and narrow down that list before you get over here so we can really target the best places for you and your situation. And if you need help with that, feel free to schedule a Zoom call with me. You can shoot me an email, shoot me a text, or give me a call at my info down below, and we can kind of go over that. We can pull up the map and try and figure out the areas that might fit you the best. And that bleeds into step number 2, and that's to contact me. I'm like I said, I'm an active real estate agent over here, so I can take you through that entire process of making that move over here and finding the right home. Some of you I do virtual showings with over FaceTime, so you can start to see some houses through the lens of a virtual tour and not just photos online. And of course, when you're over here in person, happy to meet with you and take you around and start showing you some places and some different neighborhoods and whatnot. So reach out to me. I can be your point of contact to start that process through that move up here to Washington. Like I said, I've helped out a lot of you that have contacted me here from YouTube and love doing it. Step number 3 is to get pre-approved. We got to know what kind of budget we're working with. If this is a move that's going to be happening in the near future, you know, maybe within the next 6 to 8 months, it's a good idea, or sooner, it's a good idea to get pre-approved and figure out what budget we might be working with. Now, just because you qualify for a certain amount doesn't mean you want to pay that amount. You could qualify for $800,000. That doesn't mean you want to pay $800,000. Maybe you're more comfortable around $650,000. So we want to figure out what you can get pre-approved for, and then from there we want to figure out your budget. Now, if you don't already have a lender that you're using, I've got a great lender that I refer most of my clients to over here. Most of my clients end up using, and you know, I'd be happy to connect you with him, and you can kind of go through those steps of figuring out what you might be able to get pre-approved for in different programs and down payments and all that kind of stuff to help give us an idea financially where we might stand, and then we can make a plan from there. Step number 4, this is going to apply to some of you, not all of you. If you're a current homeowner in your state or wherever you live, you need to make a plan for selling your home or renting out that home. So for most people, they will not qualify to carry both mortgages at the same time. So in other words, you're not necessarily going to be able to buy a home in Seattle, in the Seattle area, and then sell your out-of-state home after that. most people do not financially qualify to carry both mortgages, because then both mortgages have to fit within your debt to income ratio. Some of you will, but most people do not. So you need to figure out a solution to that. Either, you have to sell your home out of state first and satisfy that before you start making offers over here. Or you can make offers over here that are contingent, meaning you can make an offer on a home, say in Seattle, and say, hey, it's contingent on my home in, Alabama selling, if you're coming from Alabama. In that case, you've got to put that home in Alabama on the market immediately after the offer getting accepted on that Seattle home. So that home has to be ready and it has to go on the market. And then it is a contingency, so they can always serve you a bump clause, and you could lose that home if your Alabama home does not go under contract quickly with a buyer. So a bit more risk associated with that procedure and going the contingent route. Or you can sell your out-of-state home first and then figure out a rental option. Some people will get a rent back on that home. So if you're in another state, you can talk to this about this with your agent over there. You could potentially sell the home and get a post-occupancy. You could stay in your Alabama home in this case for 30 days after it closes. You could rent it back basically from that new owner, give you flexibility to find a home over here. We do that all the time here in the Seattle area. You could also just come over here and find a short-term rental. Very, very popular as well for my clients that are coming from out of state to come over here. There's a lot of different short-term rental options in this area, whether you want to go the Airbnb route, which you can rent out for more than just a few days. You can go weeks or months at a time. Tends to be a little bit more expensive, but there are some month-to-month rentals around here as well. That, of course, they are going to be a bit more expensive, but it can allow you that flexibility to be over here and shopping for homes in person. On the flip side of that, if you're going to keep your home out of state and keep it as a rental, in order to take that debt basically off your record and not counting against your debt to income ratio on the purchase in Seattle, you have to have a renter for that home. So the lender is likely going to require a security deposit and first month's rent and a lease agreement. So if you're coming over here and you want to buy a home, but the renter is not going to be in your place for a few months, you may not be able to qualify until that renter is almost in place, or you at least have the security deposit and first month's rent in hand with that signed lease agreement. So make sure you know that, and that's something you can talk to the lender about on the timing of all of that and making sure you're satisfying what they need in order to be able to qualify for a home here in Seattle as well. Step number 5, I kind of talked about a little bit, but decide how you want to see homes. Like I said, a lot of times I do virtual showings via FaceTime with you guys when you're out of state and you're kind of just starting the process, getting your feelers for things, and you just want to start looking at homes, virtually. I have clients that make offers virtually without seeing the home in person first. Never push anybody to do that. I understand a lot of people are not comfortable with that, but if that's something you want to do, people have done that before, and it is a possibility. Outside of that, people are doing one of two things. They're coming over here for a trip. Maybe they're saying, hey, we're going to stay for a week. We're going to shop for homes for a week and really just hope we can find what we're looking for and start making offers. Maybe that's, maybe they don't feel like that's going to be enough time, so they stay a little bit longer, or they just come over here and, like I said, get a short-term rental and start living over here. Get a month-to-month rental, and then they're here full-time, really have boots on the ground. We can see homes whenever we want, and be able to be a little bit more patient at times and not have to squeeze everything into 1 week if that right home hasn't popped up yet. So a few different options, but just kind of figure out and think about how you might want to start looking at homes and going about that process. And then step number 6 is, well, basically the same thing. It's starting to look for homes. Like I said, I can do virtual showings with you, or when you're here in person, I can take you around. You'll be with me personally looking at homes in this area, getting a feel for things. We can see that, this isn't HGTV. You don't get to just see 3 homes and then have to pick one. You can see as many homes as you need in order to find that right one, and we can be patient waiting for that right home. But, once you're settled and have that plan, we can really start looking at homes. All right, and step number 7 is to start making offers. So again, spoke about this a little bit in the previous points, but once you have found that right home, whether you feel it's through a virtual showing and you want to make an offer right away, or you're in person, you can start making offers. Now, this is where we sit down and talk about how offers work here in the Seattle area. And we'll talk about this as we go the entire time, but we really want to nail it down and come up with a very strong offer for the house as we are starting to make that first offer. And of course, the market has changed quite a bit here in Seattle. I'm making this video in September of 2022, so if you're watching it a year down the road, this may not apply, but this is becoming a much more buyer-friendly market than it has been for the last few years, so we have much more leverage to negotiate certain things in contracts and with sellers. So that's important to know, and we'll sit down, and once we find that right house, we'll formulate an offer and go forward from there. Step number 8 is to start arranging your movers. Now, when you're moving out of state, it's never a simple task. Now, what I have found is the number one, far and away best solution to moving state to state, and I'd say the majority of my buyers that have moved out of state or moved into Washington, into the Seattle area, have gone this route, and that's using pods, P-O-D-S. So the good thing about pods is they can come to your home. Again, if you're in Alabama, can send a pod to your home in Alabama. You can either pack it up yourself, this pod, or you can hire their movers to pack it up for you. 2 options there. Once it's packed up, you can leave it sitting in your driveway for a little bit, or you can have them just come pick it up and take it to their storage facility. So if you are looking to pack up your current home but don't have a destination in Seattle yet, a place to put it, maybe you are doing a short-term rental and you don't have a place to bring all of your stuff, the pods turns into a storage unit, so they can store it for you at their facility, and then when you're ready for it to be delivered, maybe a month later or whatever the case is, then they can deliver it to your new home. This avoids you having to move multiple times from storage unit to house to into the next house. It removes some of that headache, and it's usually the most seamless way to do it when you're moving out of state. So definitely check into that if you're planning to make the move from out of state to the Seattle area. Check into pods. That's likely going to be the easiest way for you to navigate that. All right, and the last step is closing day. Very simple. We've already got your offer accepted on a house, you've arranged the movers, and you've got closing day. Usually from the time your offer gets accepted to the time we close on the home here in the Seattle area is 20 to 30 days. Sometimes it can be a little bit longer if we've negotiated that for whatever reason, but typically it's 20 to 30 days between your offer acceptance and when you close on that home and get those keys. And then, we'll meet back up together that day and we'll get you the keys and you'll be on your way and ready to move in. So these are the most important steps, I would say, to take as you're going through this process of moving to the Seattle area from out of state. Having somebody to help guide you and advise you through that process is very important as well, which is where I come in and be happy to help you with that whole process. But if you've got questions on the subject, feel free to comment down below or shoot me a text, call, or email at my info here. Be more than happy to have a chat with you and see what I might be able to do to help. But I appreciate you watching this one.